Chris Lee and Blake Lovell here from Southeastern 14, presented by Stakes, ready to react to what the College Football Playoff Committee did on Tuesday night. At least one of us is ready to react. Blake sounds like a 90-year-old woman this morning, so we may just use sign language and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, Blake,
I don't have a voice, everyone. If you listen to the videos
you have
from
a
early
voice.
in the
It's
week,
just not.
if you listen to the videos earlier in the week, I told you this was coming. So I am just here so I don't get fined. Is that what Marshawn Lynch said?
I think so.
All
I
right,
shouldn't laugh,
carry on.
but I have to.
Carry on.
Okay, well, I'll do most of the talking today, I guess.
Thanks.
Okay, here's your rankings: Georgia, Michigan, TCU, USC, Ohio State, Alabama, followed by Tennessee, Penn State, Clemson, and Kansas State. But really, Blake, for all intents and purposes, it's the top six that matter. And to cut to the chase, I think Georgia and Michigan are probably in regardless. Georgia's got a game with LSU this weekend, which it is going to be about, a 17.5-point favorite in the SEC title game. Michigan has got a game with an overmatched Purdue team. Then you've got TCU and USC. TCU plays Kansas State in the Big 12 title game. TCU is unbeaten, but Kansas State is no slouch. And USC gets a rematch with the one team that beat it. That was Utah. Now, that game was on the road. This game will not be on the road. But I think it's as simple as this. Georgia and Michigan, barring some crazy scenario, maybe a lopsided loss, are going to be in regardless. They're certainly going to be in with wins. TCU and USC, I think the committee is not going to take those teams out of the playoff with wins. So, this could be very simple. We could know on Friday night that USC is in with the win. That's when that game is going to be played, and then we wait on TCU, Kansas State. Now, if one or both of those teams have a loss, that's where it gets interesting.
I think, and I'm going to make this quick. I think if TCU loses a close game, I think they're in. I think TCU is in a pretty good spot because remember that we talked about their strength of schedule.
Yeah.
I think as long as they don't get blown out, I think they're in. So,
well, and here's what this is courtesy of ESPN. Okay, Georgia's strength of schedule 47, strength of resume 3, but it's going to be SEC champion with one loss. Michigan strength of resume 2, strength of schedule 39. That blowout of Ohio State on the road, I think, is going to carry a ton of weight. So those teams, again, barring something crazy, I don't know how both are not in. TCU strength of resume, according to ESPN, number 1. Again, unbeaten. The Big 12 is not a league that's top-heavy with outstanding teams, but it's got a lot of really good teams. There's really no week off in the Big 12, so I think that weighs some. And then USC, which has not had much of a strength of schedule all year, that was all back-ended. The Trojans are checking off boxes left and right down the stretch. Beat Notre Dame by 11 over the weekend. Strength of resume, number 6. Strength of schedule, 57 is what ESPN's got.
Here's one thing I do know, other than my voice. Alabama's done. There's no path for Alabama.
Probably.
I don't think so.
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't think the committee would flip Ohio State and Alabama over the weekend. And
that's one of the things he was asked last night, and he didn't give a straight answer, but the question was, how could you flip both? How could you flip it when neither have games to play? If you're putting Ohio State ahead of Alabama now, how could you put Alabama ahead of Ohio State if neither team plays? So,
yeah. Well, let's just compare for the sake of this. Alabama and Ohio State. Best win for Alabama, probably a win at Texas. Best win for Ohio State, a win at Penn State. Ohio State's got a better first win. Ohio State's next best win, Notre Dame, probably. Alabama's is probably Mississippi State. Call it a draw. Next best win, Ohio State's is probably Iowa. Alabama's is probably at Ole Miss. I don't know that you see a differentiator much there. Probably it's a better win for Alabama. Next best win. Alabama's is probably at Arkansas. Ohio State is probably Wisconsin. Flip a coin. Next best win, Ohio State's. This is the fifth best win, probably at Maryland. And Alabama's probably over Auburn. See, the problem with Alabama is the back end wins. Texas A&M, Auburn, Vandy, Utah State, ULM don't really do much for you. And if your best win is at Texas, I know Texas is a really good team that computers love, but it's just hard to make an argument from who you beat. Now, if you want to make an argument from how your losses came down, losing to Tennessee on a field goal in Knoxville on the last play of the game, losing in Baton Rouge on a 2-point conversion on the last play of the game. Alabama's that close to being unbeaten. But wins and losses count for something, and that is the unfortunate reality for Alabama is it's got 2 losses, whereas Ohio State's was a pretty lopsided loss to Michigan. I think that's Blake's way of saying I agree with you. Okay, next
I'm trying stuff here, Chris. I'm trying to be interactive, but it's just there's only so much I can do. This is an early Christmas present for some of our subscribers, by the way. There are people probably out there rooting for this.
If you want to interact, don't interact with Blake right now. Interact with Stakes. If you predict sports better than the crowd for a chance to win NFTs with Stakes, players can submit their sports predictions against friends, other fans, and influencers forever. Don't let your sports genius go overlooked. Join Stakes and have the best predictions captured in the moment. Go to playwithstakes.com/14. Use our invite code Southeastern14 for a double welcome bonus. Unlike Blake, Stakes is a lot of fun, and it will interact with you. And you will be glad you did, and you'll help out our sponsor. All right. That's all you can do, pretty much. That was not a thumb down to Stakes. But let's see. What else can we do here? We've got – let's see if – it's still problematic for Alabama if TCU loses because TCU's best win is the same as Alabama's at Texas. Next best win at Kansas State, and we're not at Kansas State. That's Kansas State at home. That's a better win than Alabama's second win. Other wins at Baylor, Oklahoma, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, at Kansas, at SMU, at Iowa State. Iowa State's not going to blow anybody away, but the computers like that team. So I just think that, when you start comparing win-loss teams, if TCU were to get there, that's also problematic.
Do you think this really just assuming everything goes according to, I think this is probably Ohio State versus USC. That's probably the biggest discussion at this point. Because, again, I still think TCU would be in ahead of Ohio State, even with a loss, as long as it's not a blowout loss, right? So
Kansas State's 10 in the committee's rankings,
right.
So they're probably not going to get docked. And they've already beaten Kansas State once.
Yep.
So
I think that's what it comes down to. It comes down to if USC loses, depending on how they lose, does that push Ohio State back in? I think that's like I said, I think Georgia, Michigan, and TCU are all in, no matter what.
Yeah. Now the screaming from Knoxville, I'm sure is coming, and I can't really blame Tennessee fans. Tennessee did beat Alabama, that was at home. Did beat LSU, which beat Alabama. Other nice wins for the Vols at Pitt, Missouri, Florida, Kentucky. So Tennessee's got 2 really nice wins and a lot of NIT type wins.
I think what he said, and I may be wrong about this, and it's what we've talked about before, how they lost.
A loss.
It's how they lost. I think it's not just the number to the right. It's how they lost to South Carolina. And I think that was a big factor in that. So, yeah.
All right. We'll talk about this more on our live stream tonight being Wednesday night. At least one of us will. Blake may just hold up signs.
That's a good idea.
Which, given the way you sound, I'm fine with that too.
Yeah. Sorry, everyone. I apologize. I know this doesn't sound great, but we're trying to give you something. So
we need to get our man healthy for basketball. In any case, thank you for watching. Thank you to our presenting sponsor, Stakes. We'll see you again at Southeastern 14.